This is a great story because at their peak in 1997, local vehicle assemblers used to assemble 20,000 units per year, a figure which had plunged to 6,000 in 2009. And analysts believe that we are not even making a fraction of that in 2019. Companies such as the once majestic Willowvale and Mazda Motor Industries have been battling viability issues. Once a giant assembler, Quest Motor Zimbabwe is presently operating at a paltry 5% capacity utilization. This has forced Zimbabwean drivers to import cars that suit the country's rugged road network. One such top-of-the-range vehicle making waves in southern Africa, in fact in Africa, is the Ford Ranger Limited, Ford XLT and the Ford Wildtrak. These vehicles, any petrol head's dream, were recently launched in South Africa. And as we have reported earlier on ZTN, we have a look at what they said about the specs of the new cars.
Carmaker Ford is expected to unveil a fourth-generation vehicle for Africa after rolling similar vehicles in the US and Europe. The freshest beast in the Ranger series is to be unveiled at an event in South Africa's Garden Route city of George on Monday next week. While many features are understandably under wraps, Morning Rush understands the stylish and versatile new version of Europe's best-selling Bakkie introduces Ford's new 2.0-litre EcoBlue diesel engine with selective catalytic reduction, SCR, for optimized emissions. It will be delivering up to a 9% fuel efficiency improvement when combined with an advanced new 10-speed automatic transmission. The car will stand out from the crowd with interior delivering a more upscale, sporting appeal, featuring dark satin chrome elements, a gloss-finished decorative spear, and upscale partial leather embossed seats. Reporting for ZTN, I'm Robert Mukondiwa.
Now, as you can see from that report, the cars were already launched. Now, ZTN were lucky to send our main man, our reporter who looks at these things, Robert Mukondiwa, to go to the launch. Look what he sent us back.
Becoming Ford country. The Bakkie range of especially the Ford Ranger Limited, Ford XLT, and the Ford Wildtrak are fast making their way onto the Zimbabwean roads. And so it was only proper to join the rest of the continent as petrolheads gathered at the sacred rite of the launch of the Ford Ranger course and the scenic bays of Herald's Bay. The journos were here to test drive the beautiful every driver's right at the top of the country.
Let's get a bit more over, just a little. Okay, perfect.
Hands of mortal man, deep in the Everglades and up the gritty pencil-slim track of road. If the car fell into the deep valley, there was one comfort, knowing you will have gone out of I didn't think I was attracted to her as much as mountain. Now in the XLT, the experience was equally refreshing. One. Finally, going onto the track made for men, the XLT developed from smooth to potholed to rural. It became Mukondiwa.
I'm jealous. I love that car.
Well, I'll tell you. Heard on my report there that, of course, they took us to this lush feel this car, and they were actually launching two cars, as I said, the XLT and the other Ford Ranger, which is the Wildtrak. It was absolutely exhilarating.
The Ford Ranger is very popular. I mean, in Zimbabwe, we see a lot of them on the roads, and of course, not just in Zimbabwe, in Southern Africa. In fact, it's one of their top sellers.
It is, actually, and they are second in the region only to Toyota. And you do know, for quite a bit of a while, Zimbabwe was pretty much Toyota country when it came to the backies. And edging closer now is the Ford Ranger. And you'll remember, even now in government took a great order of these vehicles last year, and they continue to do so. So they've actually also shifted into the Ford Ranger vehicles outside of Toyota, which was basically their car of choice.
I mean, they've got stuff like, look, I love cars, of course, and I'm sure most people do, but they've got twin turbo. And what I liked as well, particularly from that clip, was the fact that on our terrain, in our mountains, on our roads, it's a perfect car.
Absolutely. And when we took that car on the test drive, we went on through the mountains of what's called Mukondiwa, the mountains of honey.
Oh, I love it.
And that beautiful vehicle was dripping with honey, if I can tell you that. But it's a multi-purpose vehicle. As you say, the specs are amazing. That bi-turbo, which we really got to feel much later on when we got into the open roads and open terrain. I've got a couple of notes here. It's got noise cancellation.
Oh, wow.
It's got active park assist, and these are a Spartan list of features.
Wait, hang on. That's where you don't have to touch the wheel.
You don't really have to worry about, as long as you've got.
That would be great for my mother.
It's great for me. Trust me. When it's really precision personified.
Right.
You feel like it's a being when you've got part of it as well is. It can tow heavy loads. And I'm sure you saw the very first package when we saw it towing tons and tons of things. It can actually tow your mother-in-law. That's how strong it is.
I thought you saw the package where it was actually, I think it was towing something like 10 or 15 caravans.
Absolutely.
And, it was incredible.
So,
very strong.
So that's probably the only vehicle at the moment that can tow your mother-in-law.
Look, I'm not going to talk about the price, but I'm told that apparently, according to maker or makes of its kind, it seems to be pretty in line with most of the other makes of the same sort of standard.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And so you've got all those things coming together to create something that is absolutely fantastic.
Right.
Trust me. And when you've got both the XLT and the Wildtrak, I really couldn't choose.
In fact, you like them both. Come on.
I love them both. But then, funny enough, the Wildtrak is a bit, a bit on the higher side. Close to R500,000 compared to around 400,000 rand for the XLT. But I actually felt more comfortable in the cheaper vehicle. I don't know whether that makes me cheap.
Well, look, put it this way. I like the car, and as I said, I'm jealous. But, however, there is a sort of a little bit of a downside on this because, as you know, as I said in my opening, the local car manufacturers, of course, are suffering. Their production is down, and they're having to compete with what they say are cheaper imports. So the question is that these imports that are coming in from Ford, Toyota, and other makers, where does it leave the local car industry? Now, Robert, it is a concern. Obviously, right now, we have to import cars. We're not manufacturing at all.
Absolutely.
And obviously, we pick the best cars we can. And I think Ford is one of the top cars for that range.
True.
But it is a problem.
It is.
And we definitely need to put in some kind of thing. Now, I do understand that we put in the Zimbabwe Motor Industry Development Policy. The idea there is to buy local. When they say local is lacquer, is that what they say? I don't know. But there. What would your comments be to that?
Well, the comment is, as you said, we've got quite a bit of a tricky situation that we're in. Hurunga West legislator, for example, Temba Mliswa, is always harping on about how we need to buy local, and he kept on saying, why don't we resuscitate and revitalize the Willowville Mazda Motor Industries
and Quest,
plant,
of course,
and Quest, for example. But the problem there is they're not producing enough, as you're saying. And even as government was trying to deliberately say, let's buy local, there isn't enough that's being produced. And also, we can't all be a nation of Mazda from start to finish. So, but on vehicles like the Ford, the advantage is we're not really taking in junk. We're taking in
top-of-the-range vehicles because they're not cheap imports. They're expensive vehicles, but they're also durable. They're viable on our roads, on and off, terrain sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But the problem we have is when we want high-end, we don't have enough. When we want low-end, we don't have at all. And then that's how we do it.
I will tell you, though, Malaysia, for example, has the car they call the Proton, and a lot of local Malaysians drive the Proton. It is a good make. It may not be as good as some of the imported models like Mercedes and that, but it is a good make. And in fact, local manufacturers are pitching government. They're saying, why don't you give us your orders? If you're going to be buying for government departments, if you're going to be buying for parliamentarians, you need to give us those orders, because how else can we increase production? And that's interesting because, and another thing as well, there's downstream issues, Robert. There's employment, because
absolutely,
when you make a motor car, what have you got there? You've got mechanics, you've got spare parts, that is necessary. We need to create jobs.
We do need to create jobs, Andy, and it's interesting that what you mentioned about Malaysia. Besides the car sounding like a loaf of bread, VW came to the fore because of that in Germany, because they say, let's create a car of our own for our people, and Volkswagen came to being, which literally means people's car. And perhaps we need to look at that as well as a nation and say, can we start producing our own as well?
Well, there we go. That's Robert Mukondiwa. He was lucky enough to drive the new Ford range of cars. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a new car, it may be an option. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that we need to revitalize our local manufacturing sector.